Record. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today for our writing workshop on dealing with writer's block. My name's Kerry and it's lovely to have you with us. Let's get started. So just to begin, QT acknowledges the Turrbal and Yagara as the First Nations owners of the lands where QT now stands. We pay respect to their elders' laws, customs, and creation spirits. We recognise these lands have always been places of teaching, research, and learning. QT acknowledges the important role Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people play within the QT community. All right, so we will have today's resources, the recording and the slides up onto Blackboard. I actually haven't put them up there as yet. I haven't had a chance this morning, but that's where they'll be. There's that link, but I will send you an email. Probably won't be till tomorrow morning actually, but maybe this afternoon with the link anyway. But that link will take you to the Blackboard site that you can see there on the screen, and then you'll be able to see all of our other resources there as well. So this is a workshop today, as you know, and our workshops provide overviews of theory and principles of writing practices. We do the peer discussions, and our writing circles are interactive sessions. The workshops are interactive as well, but with the writing circles, we have exemplars and practical activities where you check your own writing. So that's the difference there. So for today, we're going to understand and identify issues that block your writing productivity. We're going to learn some strategies to help to unblock that productivity, and you're going to make a writing plan and set some goals as well. So we've got this welcome now. We're going to look at what writer's block is, what causes it. You'll have your peer discussion. We'll go through those strategies and you'll make your plan. And we've got a Q&A at the end, as we always do. Timing wise, we should be okay. Not too packed full. All right. So just to start you thinking, now this is something I do in all of my classes because I want you guys to be active and thinking the whole way through. 2 questions. What is currently the biggest challenge you face that stops you from writing? What's the biggest obstacle? You might have more than one, that's okay. And what effective writing strategies do you think productive writers implement to achieve their writing goals? So have a think about those 2. Jot down some notes because we will come back to those questions later on. I might just pop them into the chat so that you've got them. By the way, don't forget to pop your student ID into the chat if you haven't already so we can record your attendance. All right, so just some questions to be thinking about and hopefully you can jot down a couple of answers there. All right, what is writer's block and what causes it? So here's a couple of definitions. Have a look through those. There's a dictionary definition, the condition of being unable to create a piece of written work because something in your mind prevents you from doing it. Temporary or chronic incapacity to put pen to paper. An inability to begin or continue writing for reasons other than a lack of basic skill or commitment. So obviously, none of you lack basic skills, you don't lack commitment. So there's something that's blocking that productivity. Someone's popped into the chat. When I take a couple of days off from writing, I tend to lose momentum, and writing every day is how writers achieve their goals. Yes, good one. Thank you. Feeling overwhelmed, getting lost in detail and finding the motivation can block. Yep, absolutely. So these are sort of some official, let's call them, definitions of writer's block. We've got Calvin there as well. You can't write there if there's a big block. A little bit more literal, that one. But I'm going to pose this question, which you might not like. Is writer's block even really a thing? Whoop, I'll get out of the way of that. So I'm with Yoda. What do you guys think? Right or right not? There is no writer's block. Anyone agree with Yoda like I do? Here's 2 quotes as well. We don't have to just rely on Yoda about whether or not writer's block is a thing. Naming something gives it object power. People can overthink themselves into deep, dark corners, and writer's block is a good example of that. Writer's block is an artificial construct that basically justifies a discipline problem. So discipline as in you're not disciplined enough to sit down and write. A commitment to a regular work schedule will help you overcome barriers like perfectionism and procrastination. We're going to talk about those. So is writer's block a thing? We're going to say it is, but yeah, I'm definitely on Yoda's side. And because when you guys later come up with the obstacles to writing, I'm pretty sure we can bust those obstacles. All right, so poll question 1, let's have a look. I'm going to launch it now. It is anonymous, and you can only choose 1 in this one. But the thing about writer's block and procrastination and all of the things we're going to talk about today is it's often related to having a lack of confidence in what we're doing. We saw that in those initial definitions. So one of the things we're going to look at today is ways that you can increase your confidence if you're feeling not as confident as you could. All right, so I'm going to end that poll. Thanks, guys. So you can see here, only 1 person with low confidence. Most of you are some, and then 1 person with a lot. Okay, good. I mean, well, not good. Good that you answered. Confidence is something, yeah, definitely that you can build on. The more you write, the better you'll get, and then your confidence will increase. So think about that as we go through today, because it is something that we would need to work on to improve our confidence, definitely in our writing skills and obviously what we're writing as well. So if we come back to the idea that we are getting blocked, one of the reasons for that is what you're doing is hard. It's really mentally challenging. It's a different kind of writing. There's a whole lot of things going on in all of your projects as well. There's a level of quality we need to reach. So, research writing, definitely mentally challenging. And as you can see with these quotes, writers have to think and think hard. It's one of the more hardcore cognitive expenditure lines of work than a lot of other things. This second one about the idea of language production. So don't think of that as somebody who's not a native speaker. It's not so much about that. It's about being able to produce the language to explain and persuade and engage the reader in the way that you need to. So that could be something. So how do we improve our language production? We read and we write. So then let's pretend writer's block is real and we're not on Yoda's side. What causes it? So there's quite a few possibilities here. Maybe you've got some others. Feel free to pop into the chat if there's something else. So getting stuck, being really tired, being really busy. Where will I start? I have so much to do. I don't know if my ideas are good enough. I haven't read enough yet. Oh, everyone's negative about the feedback that I get is negative. I don't feel supported enough and I'm inexperienced. So quite a few there. Anyone got anything to add? We had in the chat earlier, when you get out of your writing system and you don't write for a few days. So that's about habits, isn't it? It's the same. I find that with exercise. If I get into a good system and I'm doing it regularly, I'll do it. But if I have a few days off for whatever reason, it's really hard to get back. So it's about forming those habits. Yeah, so sometimes stuck in the flow of ideas. Yep, and that's fair. That's fair. So what do you do when you're stuck? You do a lot of thinking, right? And so don't forget that the thinking and the writing go together. So while you're thinking, you can be also writing, even if you chuck out those ideas or you know, you haven't come up with what you need or your solution, at least you're still writing. So let's, now that we've defined writer's block and we've said there's lots of things that cause it, let's get onto what exactly causes your writer's block. So we're going to do some reflecting. So these experiences that you're reflecting on are obviously your own lived experiences. There's no right or wrong. Everyone will be different. So I want you, I mean, you've come here to a workshop on writer's block. So obviously that would indicate that you want to be more productive, which is awesome. So use this time to do some reflecting. Maybe you don't do much reflecting, and that's okay, but try to do it now. Because it is how we learn and grow and learn more about ourselves and make improvements. The point of reflecting is not necessarily, or definitely not, to berate ourselves and go, oh, that was terrible. It's to say, okay, that happened, or I didn't do as well as I wanted to, or I did do as well as I wanted to do. And then what you're going to do the next time you sit down to do whatever activity it is. The other thing too, you're all doing training degrees. And, you know, writing's going to be the way you complete your degree, but it's also something that you're learning to improve on as you go through. And you also don't know everything yet because you're training. So, you know, don't be too hard on yourself as well. That would be something when you're reflecting as well. Okay, so we're going to do an activity in a second, but as part of that, think about the important things that help us to learn and grow as well. And that's staying connected, feeling a sense of belonging within our cohort, and knowing that any feelings that we have, whether they're good or bad, are normal. And lots of people would be similar. Think about whether you're seeking feedback regularly enough or widely enough. Are you contacting your supervisor enough? Is that something you could improve on? And also consider how your writing strategies that you're now doing, are they working, or are you here because you want to be more productive? And obviously with the reflecting, once we can figure out what the issues are, then we can problem solve and come up with some strategies to address those issues. So positive writing experiences, that's what we're after, because that will then get you into more motivated feelings and get you writing more, obviously. So we want to reflect to understand your feelings about writing. So you're going to think about your feelings. Then you're going to think about, well, what do I need to do to help turn, if they're negative feelings, how do I turn them around? If they're positive feelings, how do I keep them going and improve on them? And also, of course, you'll need to implement an achievable writing plan. So sort of 3 steps to get rid of that writer's block if that's what you're experiencing. So let's have a look here. Activity 1, you're going to do this reflection activity. Just jot some notes down for yourself. You don't need to share these. So when you think about right now, how you feel about writing, how you feel about the next time you need to sit down and write something towards your thesis or a publication, how does it make you feel? What's the first feeling that comes up? There's no right or wrong. As I said, these are your lived experiences and you're not sharing these. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. So the reflection is for you. So I'll just give you a minute. Do you resonate with that image there? Is that something that you think encaptures what your feelings are? you could very well be doing this right now and putting a whole lot of positive feelings down, and that's great. If you've got some positive and some negative, that's fine. If they're all negative, that's okay too. This is about you. All right, so hopefully you've jotted down just a couple of things here, your feelings that come up when you think about writing. Now, the next one is write down any issues or obstacles that make writing challenging. They might not be related to those feelings, or they might be. Again, no right or wrong. This is completely about you. Obstacles could be physical ones, mental ones, could be about your writing skills, could be about time. Maybe you don't have anywhere quiet to work. Maybe like me, your laptop's being annoying and not working properly. Alrighty, so hopefully, well, maybe you haven't written down anything, but there's no obstacles. But if there is, what we're doing today, keep those in mind, because the strategies that you come up with that are going to fit are to minimize those obstacles. So last part of this activity is to think about some positive writing experiences that you have had where you were successful as a writer. Every single one of you will have something you can write here, okay? So have a think when you were successful. It could be as simple as writing the application to get into your current degree. That was success, wasn't it? Maybe it's something to do with your undergrad degrees. Maybe you've done publications. Every one of you will have something that you can write down that's a positive writing experience. So I want you to keep that one really at the forefront of your mind, because, you know, sorry, but you do have to write. So if we can keep knowing you can do this, you know, you've got the track record there. We want you to be like the girl in the yellow dress, so excited that she's about to start her writing for the day. Rather than being like Calvin and putting that block up on your desk and having that block to getting your goals. All right, so you've got 3 parts to your reflection: your feelings, your, what was the second one? Oh, the obstacles, and of course the positive writing experiences. So keep those in your mind and in front of you in your notes as well as we go through, because the idea of this third one is the proof that you can do this. So maybe you can think back to those positive writing experiences and figure out, well, what happened then that made you able to be successful and have that good experience, and see if you can implement those again. All right, so if you did have some negative feelings about writing, what we also want to do is to turn them into positives. So one of the things about writing and being productive is learning to talk about it and articulate to others and feel that you know, community of practice, and know that, you know, you're not alone. Everybody finds writing about research challenging. You know, there's no one that thinks it's just the easiest thing they've ever done. So if we can talk about it, normalize it, give each other boosts and strategies that work for us as well, that's going to go a really long way to helping to bust that writer's block. And then, as we said, once you articulate and acknowledge, you know what, sometimes I have these negative feelings, then you can find ways to address them. I think for me, and maybe for some of you as well, my biggest thing is time, you know, and finding the time. And it's crazy because there's 24 hours in the day. I should be able to find time. So I need to find ways to change that negative feeling of there's not enough time into a positive by making time. And then, as I said, if we anticipate obstacles that prevent us from writing, we then need to put the plans into place to overcome them. So that's what you're going to do today. So here's some things that might lead to writer's block. We sort of touched on them before about the causes. These are the ones that I guess that research has shown are definitely things that can cause us not to be as productive. So procrastination, imposter syndrome, comparing ourselves to others, which is a bit like imposter syndrome, isn't it? Wanting to write the perfect draft, affective factors, and my supervisor doesn't like anything I write. So affective factors are around emotions, behaviors, maybe it's anxiety or things inside yourself that are stopping you from writing. So we're going to look at all of those in a minute. Here's another poll question. All right, so again, it's anonymous, and this time you can do multiple choice. So you can choose as many as you want. All right, let's have a look. Pretty even, isn't it? I'm glad there's not many putting my supervisor doesn't like anything I write, because that's not true. You feel like it's true though, I know. So yeah, evenly through all of them. Comparing myself to others was the lowest after, as well as my supervisor doesn't like anything I write. Wanting to write the perfect draft. Yes, I can identify with that. Good. All right. Thank you for sharing. So let's have a look at all of these in more detail. Oh, nice little cartoon. Is this you? It's me. I don't have cats, so I have dogs. What's going wrong with this guy? Why can't he be productive? Here's another one that you might identify with as well. So notice the blue, time actually spent writing. There's reading, procrastinating, deciding where to put the comma, shouting at the computer, thinking for your title of an unwritten book. So do you guys identify with any of those ones? All right, so this is potentially one of the main things, procrastinating. So there's all those other things we can do. I know when I was studying, I had a very clean floor. A bit dirty, need to mop. So that was definitely something that I would do, was housework. So procrastinating, to keep delaying something that must be done, often because it is unpleasant or boring. Well, I don't think writing about your research is boring, but you could be finding it unpleasant. Procrastination. Which one of these do you think you are? Definitely procrastination is one of the big ones that causes the writer. Yep, the cleaner. Yep, that's what I was for sure. Not so much now. The napper, like it, yep. The list maker, yep, these are mine. The cleaner, the side tracker, and the list maker. All right, is anyone a gamer? Watching TV? Internet researcher? I think that's probably some of us, yeah. Social sharer? The watcher? Oh, on YouTube. Okay, so none of those things are writing, are they? All right, so procrastination, big thing that we all experience. So we have to figure out ways to not procrastinate. Imposter syndrome is another one where you feel like, oh, I don't know if I should really be here. Someone's going to find out that I shouldn't be here. Everyone else seems to have it all under control. Is my research any good? So all of these things aren't true. You should be here. You deserve to be here. Okay, so we need to flip that imposter syndrome. So if that's something that's with, causing your writer's block and you know that, try to flip those feelings into positive ones. You were accepted in here. Your supervisors are going to keep you on track with your research. And, you've got this research problem and research idea, and you will be successful. You will find something in your data. Do you compare yourself to others? So not many people put that one in the poll, did you? So that's a good thing. But we do sometimes look from the outside at somebody else, within our office or someone that we know, and we feel like, well, they're progressing a lot faster than me. They're writing more quickly than me. They're progressing. So, and looks can be deceiving. It may look like that on the outside, but they could still be really stressed or not progressing as fast as you think. It's not a race, it's not a competition. Everybody has different circumstances. So try not to compare yourself to others, because unless you know the whole story, you're potentially making up things in your head that aren't true again. So same as imposter syndrome, you're sort of making things up and getting yourself all potentially anxious about something that's actually not even true. Are you trying to write the perfect draft? Some of you said yes, you were. Okay, so again, we can bust this one because no one's got a perfect draft. Your thesis potentially will never be perfect, and that's okay. It's okay. It's not about perfection. It's about getting the quality that you need and making, being explicit and clear about why your research is valuable. That's the focus. It's not about having a perfectly written thesis. And it's not the goal. You're doing a training degree and you're doing a research project. No one is perfect. And if you're waiting to be perfect, you might wait for a fair while. So, and, with that perfect draft, that's not going to happen. That's why we send it for feedback, isn't it? So that we can improve it and get the feedback and then revise even more. So don't wait for your draft to be perfect before seeking feedback. That's the key there. And if you want to strive for the perfect thesis, that's good, but it's going to take those messy drafts and the drafts to get feedback on to then get it to where you want it to be. So affective factors, of course, are very important and shouldn't be minimized, because the emotions and feelings that come up when you think about writing, or if you're feeling anxious or worried, they're real feelings. So you need to acknowledge them, don't ignore them, and then figure out what you can do to work around reducing any negative emotions or feelings. And, accept sometimes you don't reach your goals sometimes because there's something comes up that you weren't expecting, and you can do better tomorrow. That's part of reflecting, isn't it? And so by staying positive and realizing, what happened today wasn't as bad as I thought, and, I can do better tomorrow. Now, if you are worried about your mental health at all, if you are feeling overwhelmingly anxious or concerned or depressed, please go and seek some help. I've just popped into the the chat, the counselling services at QUT, which are very good. And as I said, your emotions and your feelings are real. We shouldn't ignore them. And even if you can go and talk to somebody, your supervisor, your family, your peers, or go to the counselling services. So those affective factors are important, and please don't ignore them. We also have some wellbeing resources that you can find on HiQ. You know, it could well be that coming and having a look at some of these resources might help you. So the first three there on that screenshot are short 1.5 hour self-paced modules. You know, could be a really good investment of your time. And the mental wellbeing for researchers, that's a module that starts in September. Now that one is a 5-week one. It's very good. I'm going to pop the link into the chat for that one. You know, so, you know, there's all the resources. There's the counselling, there's these ones as well. And of course, as we said, you can always, you know, go and talk to your friends, your family, your peers, your supervisors to just, you know, give you a place to discuss and talk about how you're feeling. So this one, that was the last one, wasn't it? My supervisor doesn't like anything I write. I would say most likely untrue. But what it was probably about is your feedback literacy. So feedback literacy is your ability to be an effective participant in the feedback process. So it also could be your supervisor needs to improve their feedback literacy. So what tends to happen is we get the feedback from our supervisor on a document and we look at it and all we see is the negative things. We don't see the bits where they've said this is good, or maybe they haven't said this is good, but the fact that there's no comment, can we assume that that bit's okay? I think we can, but we would want supervisors to at least acknowledge, yes, this is on the right track. But if you're not getting the positive feedback, ask the question. Ask the question directly and say, do you think I'm on track? What do you think about this section? There's only a few comments in here. Do you think it's okay? So be specific and be explicit. That's one of the ways that you can be an active participant in the feedback process. The other thing is sometimes we get the feedback and we actually don't know exactly what's meant. My advice initially is when you do get feedback on a large section, maybe open it, have a quick look, shut it down, go away, come back later the next day or at least a few hours later after you've had time to breathe, and just go back and see what you can find that's not negative. There will be something there. And if you need clarification, ask in a nice way, of course. If you disagree with something, and this is to anyone who's giving you feedback, if you disagree, that's okay. Explain why. Say, I disagree because of this reason. And then that can lead to a really good discussion and progress as well. So I don't think that they don't like anything that you write. I think it's an issue with the feedback process, and you can directly improve that feedback process. So here's some positives. So my uncle, he's a professor at a university in Chicago. And when I was studying, he would say all the time, how's it going? And that was his acronym: perseverance, hard work, dedication. And so really recognizing that it's okay, that it's hard, it's meant to be hard, and saying, you know, your dedication and your perseverance and your hard work will get you through. And that's exactly what will happen with you guys as well. You will get through. The MPhil, I've made one up there: milestones, productivity, hopeful improvement, learning. Anyone got an acronym that they would like to try? No negative words, but what could we do here? PhD or MPhil. I've put you on the spot, I know. Okay, we're popping out and looking at this video. It's really good. Can you hear it okay? Can someone give me a thumbs up? Oh, you can't hear it. Oh, gosh. Okay, hang on. All right, so based on the video, let's do this third poll. Okay, so again, anonymous. You can just pick one this time though. Have a look at that. I have all of them and judge. No carpenters, no architects, no madmen. Is that surprising to you guys? That's surprising to me. Well, actually, no, it's actually not surprising, actually, when I think about it. Yeah, judging. So that's about making your draft perfect, isn't it? So that actually links to what a lot of you said in the previous poll. And yeah, okay, having all of them, which in the video they did say is a possibility, isn't it, that you might have all of them. So probably that's not a bad thing. We want a little bit of each, don't we? All right. All right, so we are actually right on time. It's peer discussion time. Make the most of this opportunity to engage with your peers. Now, here's my little spiel as to why you should engage in these peer discussions, because it's active learning. It's going to increase the retention and understanding of the topic that we're talking about, which is busting your writer's block, improves your critical thinking, collaboration, and we construct knowledge by engaging with others. And this is a really nice opportunity for you to talk to your peers. And as I said, figure out that you're not alone in this journey. All right. So remember at the very beginning, and I had those questions to start you thinking, that's what I would like you to talk about. Obviously, you'll get sidetracked and talk about some different things. I've popped them into the chat, the questions there. Once you go into the breakouts, though, you won't see those questions anymore. All right, so welcome back, everybody. And we're going to talk now about strategies to increase your writing output and, of course, to bust that block. So let's do an activity now. So you may not have got to the question about what you think productive academic writers do, but if you did, do you want to pop some things in the chat now that you discussed? Or if you didn't get a chance to talk about that, what do you think productive academic writers do? Anybody? Did you have a chance to talk about it? Write regularly. Yep, good one. Write often. Yes. Write more. Yes. Write more, see more. Read more. Yes. Yes. Critical reading. Read and ask questions and annotate. So you're still writing. Yep. Definitely. Reading and writing are completely linked. The more you read, the better your writing will become, the more you write as well. But it's not reading for content, is it? Well, yes, you're going to read for content, but read and notice. Notice how other authors write in your field. Talk to people more. Yes, definitely. Because all of those things go hand in hand. Those critical discussions with your supervisors, with your peers, with people within your office and your field really help to get your thinking right and to help you to realize you're on the right track, or to give you some other tracks that you could go towards. Yeah, isolation kills motivation. Yeah, it does. It does. So because we get in our own head and we're all those things, aren't we? The madman, the architect, the carpenter, the judge, probably more the madman and the judge when we're on our own. All right, cool. So thank you for putting your answers there in the chat. So let's have a look at these strategies. Resist imposter syndrome, project manage, prioritize improving your writing, because that goes hand in hand with your confidence. Prioritize writing time, TNT and Park on the Hill. We'll talk about what that is. Seek feedback and give yourself a break. So that's the things we're going to talk about now. Imposter syndrome, we touched on it before, and it's okay to not know everything. If maybe you were in a group then with someone that you thought, oh, wow, they've got it all together, and maybe they do. But it's okay for you not to know everything. This is a training degree. You're learning every day. Go and seek the things that you're unsure of. Everything's there on HiQ. There's a whole stack of information there that will point you in a good direction. Of course, you've got Blackboard and all of our writing resources there as well. And as we said before, try not to compare yourself with other people. We never know what's happening in other people's lives, and keep those positive writing experiences in mind. You have been a successful writer in the past, So keep a list, big and small successes, to remind yourself that you're not an imposter, and remember that everyone struggles from time to time. So we're resisting imposter syndrome as one of our key strategies for busting that block. You are meant to be here. Your research is important and valuable. You just need to articulate that in your writing. sorry about that fuzzy picture. I tried to unfuzz it, but this is continuing on about imposter syndrome, the blue dot, what I know, yellow, what I think others know. Reality is everybody knows a little bit of something, you know. You're not the only person that doesn't know everything. Okay, so keep that in mind. Project managing your thesis is something we really encourage through GRED. You know, you potentially you're already doing this by treating your candidature like a job, and as part of that job writing, it's not an optional activity. You do need to do it. So try to make that whole thesis writing plan, work through it step by step, regularly revise it, and reflect on your achievements. We keep talking about reflecting, don't we? You know, so reflecting, don't think of it as like trying to figure out all the bad things that you did. Just reflect on how your day went, how your week went, how your writing plan went. And then if it didn't go as well as you hoped, then you can implement strategies to improve next time. So we do have a good project management eGrad module. You can see there, it's one of our 5-week modules. Next one will be in March of next year. It's already run for this year, but just there's the link there. But just so keep that on your radar if you think that's something that you could benefit from. And I think most of you could, particularly if you're near the beginning of your candidature as well. Really, really good strategies through that module. Think well. I do talk about these resources at times. I'm going to put that link into the chat as well. They have a lot of free resources that you can use, and they also have some that you can buy as well. These ones that I've got up on the screen are free. So the first one, they're year 1, year 2, year 3. Basically, they're movable sliders. So you can put in your own, obviously, points in there. There's one for a 6-year for people that are part-time. And the writing audit, that's one you'd probably use nearer the end when you need that motivation to figure out what you've got left to do. You can say, okay, these are all my chapters, and you know, I've got so much percentage completed. So really good resources there for Think Well. Go and pop in there in that website if you haven't done that before. And of course, as part of that planning, what you're doing is breaking your writing into segments. So manageable chunks so that it doesn't seem as daunting. Monthly, weekly are good ways to divide up. But as always, whatever your plans are, make sure you reflect and assign a good half an hour every month, maybe just to assess where you're at. Maybe you needed to do that more regularly and to see how you've gone. Do you have to make that schedule more achievable, or do you need to put some more writing time in? So improving your writing is really going to help reduce the writing anxiety, reduce the negative feelings, and make you feel more confident, which is a really important aspect of writing, is that feeling confident. So self-efficacy, that's something that basically it's about knowing your ability to reflect and determine what you need to do to improve. So being able to look at yourself and say, okay, I need to do these things, and then having the confidence in yourself that you can make those changes and improve those skills. So something really important. Holmes, when they did their research into why HDRs experience writing anxiety, because it is a real thing, as opposed to writer's block, which may not be a real thing. So lack of confidence, lack of writing skills, and lack of time. We've already talked about those, and potentially at least one of those could have been some obstacles that you put in earlier on in your reflections. So lack of time is because we're very busy, of course, but we know you can schedule in that little bit of time each day, or at least every second day. And writing skills, you can improve on those with all the resources that we have here at at grade, and also, of course, as we said, by reading and writing. So be honest about what you need to do to improve your writing. And part of that as well is being part of that, that effective feedback process where you're an active participant, and really ask your supervisors, where do you think I need to improve? And then that improvement will then go hand in hand to increase your confidence. So the writing won't improve on its own. You will need to seek out and figure out what you need to improve exactly, and then put into place some strategies to make those improvements. So we do have a writing skills assessment tool on Blackboard, and what are we doing for time? I reckon we do have time. I'm actually going to pop into the chat. You could go right now now that's going to take you to UniHub, but the tool is also, it begins in Blackboard, but I'm sending you straight to the actual tool. So if you want to go right now into that tool, you can see there on the screenshot, basically you are self-assessing your writing skills, okay? And what's really good about the tool, some of you may have already done it already, but what's good about the tool is it makes you identify and self-assess the skills that you might need to improve. And it can help you to start a discussion with your supervisors. You could show them how you self-assessed each of the writing skills that we have in there. And then they can say whether they agree or whether they disagree. They might actually assess you higher than you self-assess. And then based on your self-assessment, if you fill in that form, you'll get an email with resources and events that match the writing skill learning needs that you've self-identified. Now, if you put into the tool that you're competent, then you won't get, the email won't say which resources and events would match. It's when you self-assess as being low. So if you don't feel that you're low in any of the skills, that's okay. That's actually a great thing. But if you assess yourself low as being low with that skill, then you'll be recommended the resources and events that will help you to improve those skills. So is anyone gone in to the tool? Okay, so while you finish that off, why do the tool? Let's just reiterate that when you're self-assessing your writing skills, research does show that often what we do is self-assess a bit higher than what we're actually at. So that's why I think this is a really good time or a really good strategy to talk to your supervisors and see if they agree with how you've self-assessed. Because like we said, confidence is so important. It will help you to stop the imposter syndrome and comparing yourself to others. And if you know your writing skills are improving and that they're where they need to be, or that you have some strategies and resources to get them where they need to be, it's going to improve your confidence. So it's just a really good way to start you thinking about, firstly, the different aspects of writing, which you may not have thought about before. And also, as I said, to really gauge from the feedback from your supervisors as to what you might need to improve to get that quality of writing that we need, and that will improve your confidence as well. How are we going? Do you need some more time? So another strategy around the writer's block and improving your confidence as well is to know that those drafts
are not meant to be perfect. We touched on that before, didn't we, when we talked about one of the things that blocks us is wanting our drafts to be perfect and spending a whole stack of time, you know, with wording and making sure it's right and then deleting and then writing again. So, you know, rather than trying to make it perfect, proofread, do your best. Of course, proofread so you don't have any silly errors, but this is all to do with your feedback literacy as well. If you're struggling with the wording of something or whether you're explaining something clearly, make a note and ask your supervisor or whoever it is that you're seeking feedback from and say, I can't get this right, or I don't think I can get this paragraph or this sentence right. What do you think? You know, and because sometimes we're too into it and we need to take a step back and let someone else have a look. And chances are it's actually okay as it is. So those drafts are meant to be drafts, right? They're not the final submitted document, are they? They're the drafts. So if we avoid writing because we're trying to make it perfect, we're going to be more anxious. And those bad drafts are what we need because it's product of our thinking. And then we refine, seek feedback, refine, seek more feedback. So those draft stages are completely normal. They won't be perfect, those first drafts, the second draft, even the third or the fourth draft. That's completely normal. So those bad drafts, we've got to have words on the page, don't we? Otherwise, you know, how do we move forward and how do we revise and make it better? So if you're stuck in the thinking stage of writing, or you just think your drafts aren't working and you're waiting for that perfection, this is another Think Well resource. And you can see there those thoughts. I can't do this. I could have a go and see. I can't think of anything. Oh, well, I'll just write about whatever comes into my mind. It'll be stupid. I feel stupid. You're not stupid. This is a waste of time. Well, it's not, because getting some words on the page will be useful. It'll get you into the groove. I should be writing properly, not doing this crap. No, the crap or the messy drafts is what helps you get writing and getting into the groove. So, you know, when you're in Think Well, you can have a look at this. There's more to this resource as well, where basically if you flip over, there's this just white lines. Lines for you to just write whatever you're thinking. So prioritizing your writing time is how we get the writing done, how we get it into our schedule. If it's in your schedule, you're more likely to do it. Now, I know we all have a lot of very important other tasks. Every one of us has things that are just as important as our research degrees. But if you can just make writing as important as some of those other tasks, that's going to help you get into that good writing habit. As we said before, writing as your job as a HDR, writing's not an optional activity. It's something you do have to do. So when you're thinking about your writing schedule, think about the when, but also the where. Where are you most productive, and what exactly are you going to write? Now, if you wait and think, oh, I need to read more, I need to have my thoughts more clearly, you know, you're doing yourself a disservice. So don't wait until you feel ready to write. Just write those messy drafts and then improve and improve. What does it matter if you spend 5 minutes writing something and then you go, oh no, I've gone off track? At least you're getting the flow going. And as we said, recognize when you're procrastinating. We talked about that earlier, and try your best to adhere to your writing plan. Now, your writing plan needs to be achievable. Think of it as a system, a whole system of when I write, where I write, and what I write, and then you'll be more productive, and then that'll lessen the stress. It'll increase the confidence. So you can see that circle. If you can make the time, schedule it in, do a little bit, you'll feel better, and then you'll get into those good habits. But we need to prioritize writing as one of the things that we must do. It's not something like, oh, I might write today, but maybe I won't. You've got to spend that time writing. So There's been a fair bit of research into productivity, and one of the seminal researchers is Boyce. Now, this is a little old, this particular study, 1997, but basically he did this study over 1 year, and you can see there he had a group who, when they had time, they did a little bit of writing, when they could schedule it in. They came up with 17 pages of what he called polished writing, so able to be submitted to a journal or as a research document. So group 2, they actually scheduled regular 1-hour writing sessions into their weekly schedule. They produced on average 64 pages. That's so much more, isn't it? But then look at group 3. Not only did they schedule the 1-hour writing sessions, but they also reported to Boyce every week and said, hey, this is how much I wrote. Now, what did they produce? 157 pages of polished writing. So pretty interesting, isn't it? So what do we take from this? That if we schedule in, we can be more productive. But if we not only just schedule, but we also have a community of practice or someone who we check in with, which could be a supervisor, by the way, but it doesn't have to be, does it? But someone, a writing buddy even, to someone or someone in your family where they just not in a horrible way, but just check in every day, every week. How did you go? Get them to send you a text message. Did you do your writing this week? And you can say, yes, I did. So have a think how you could become like in that group 3 where you can report or talk to somebody regularly, and then you might be able to produce as much as they've produced. A really interesting study. So writing sprints was mentioned in the chat just before. So basically it's about the draft stage of writing, which is essential and a really important part of the writing process. In the sprints, all you do is write, no interruptions. You got to turn off everything. You turn off your phone, turn off the internet. All you do is write. Try not that perfect writing, the draft writing. So it's the Pomodoro technique where you set a timer. 25 minutes is generally what's advised, but it could be if you think you can't concentrate for 25 minutes or you only have a 15-minute little window, you can certainly do that. Maybe you want to go longer, but these focus blocks of time where you are not interrupted, all you do is work. What's really important is that you plan what you're going to write before you schedule the writing time, because you don't want to set the timer and then spend the first 10 minutes saying, where am I up to? What was I supposed to write in this session? So remember what we said before about your planning. It's the when, the where, and the what. Make sure you're very clear about your what, and we'll give you some strategies to help you with that in a minute. So in the HDR Writers Lounge, this is what you use, the Pomodoro technique, and you're in a nice little group so you can motivate each other. So there's some psychology around the idea of writing sprints, and it's based on this Parkinson's law. So what that says is that if you have a task and you have an hour to do that task, it will take an hour to do. If you have something you need to do and you have 3 hours to do it, it'll take you 3 hours. Okay, we sort of tasks expand to take up the time that we have that's available. So for writing, that means with these timed sprints that if we have 25 minutes that we're going to focus and do our writing, imagine how much we can get done in that focused time. Now, something you can do as well within the Pomodoro technique is you can also set a goal for how many words you would like to get in that 25 minutes or whatever your time frame is. Now, if the first time you do that and you don't reach it, don't panic. You've probably overestimated, but also it might take you a while to get into the swing of setting the timer and getting that draft writing done. So just play around and see how you go there. Also, we all have an optimal sprint time. Some of us can concentrate for a long time, some of us for less. Figure out what that is. So that's a bit of trial and error, isn't it? 15 minutes, 25 minutes, 1 hour. Or maybe you can go with Parkinson's law and say, okay, I have this little window in my day of, 20 minutes, not quite 25, just 20. Go for it. 20 minutes of writing is better than none, isn't it? So it might seem that these timeframes are quite short, and how much could you actually get done in 25 minutes or 15 minutes? You'll be surprised, particularly if you can do the no distractions and you can also know exactly what it is that you're wanting to write. Now, the thing is, if you're going to do back-to-back Pomodoros, those short breaks in between each sprint are really important. They're not optional. So if you can, obviously the shorter the sprint, the shorter the break. If you're doing 25 minutes, 3 in a row, you might just need a 5-minute little stretch, get up and walk, have a drink, then sit back down and go. If you're doing an hour, you might need 10 minutes. So fiddle around with the times and figure out what's optimal for you. So as well as the writing sprints, something else that you could also try is free writing. It's a little bit similar because in the sprints, you're just writing whatever's in your head, because remember, you've got everything else shut, right? When you're doing the sprints, you're not looking at journal articles or reading anything, you're just writing. This is the same thing. Now, this is Peter Elbow, so another seminal author. He is again in the US, and he didn't invent free writing as a thing, of course, but he did make it known that through his research that it's a really good way to help all students and HDRs in as well, academics, anyone who needs to get their writing done. And if you're struggling and feeling a little bit blocked. So you can see there that if you're free writing, there's no pressure. It doesn't matter if you haven't got the right word. It doesn't matter if your sentence isn't exactly where it needs to be. You're just free writing, and you'll come back and polish later. So you could try the two things in conjunction, really, the sprinting and the free writing, if you're really, having trouble getting words on the page. So what's good about free writing? It separates the idea of producing the text and then the revising, which is, again, when we come back to getting our drafts perfect. So when we think about writing, there's two things. There's the fluency and there's accuracy. Fluency is pumping those words out and getting a draft written. Obviously, accuracy is making sure the grammar, the sentence structure, and the content is correct. So if you're really focusing on accuracy, it's going to take away from the fluency, pumping the words out. So if you can just force yourself to free write for 10 minutes, see how you go, and then you might be able to utilize the free writing and the sprinting and put that into your schedule. So if you can't think of anything to write, just say, I don't know what to write. This is hopeless. But yeah, I guess I'm supposed to be writing about my research problem. I guess it's whatever that it is. So just write whatever. Write swear words if you need to, if that floats you. But don't stop. Go till that timer goes off. So it's non-editing writing. You're not allowed to edit. You are just writing, and it doesn't matter if in the end you only take out 2 sentences to put into your draft. Thanks. In the chat, I recommend free writing. It helps you think. Exactly. Thinking and writing go together. But if we're trying to be perfect and get the sentence right and the word right, I'm guilty of this for sure. So it's a bit like the judge, isn't it, in our people in our head. So if you can forget about worrying about that, or forget about the accuracy and just pump those words out, you will get a draft. And then you'll get feedback, then you'll polish it even more. So give it a go. So then if you're doing the sprints and you're doing your free writing, well, where are you going to start? Remember, we've got the when are we writing, where are we writing, what are we writing? So obviously, according to Think Well, we're writing the next thing. Okay, so that is the exact specific next thing. It's something small. You can't say my next thing is, oh, I'm going to write my lit review. Nope, you're going to write a paragraph specifically about one part of your lit review or your methods or your introduction or whatever it might be. So your TNT, when you're doing your sprints and your free writing, need to be really specific. Okay, don't be broad and go, oh, I might just go into my methodology chapter and just see what needs to be done in there. No, 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 no. You need to set it up beforehand. Okay. So then the same thing or something else important when you finish your sprint or your little snack writing or your little timed that you're doing or your free writing, if the timer goes off, but you want to keep going, great, keep going. But if you do have to finish, take 1 minute to write where you're at. Where are your thoughts at? What's the next sentence you need to write? What's the next paragraph you need to write? Leave the note so that when you come back to your next writing session, you've got a nice little note. So very quickly jogs your memory as to where you're up to. So activity now, write in your notes just for yourself. What do you think your 2 next things are that you need to write? So say you're going to do a writing session this afternoon. Where are you up to? What do you need to do? If you want to know more about the next thing and parking on the hill, go into the Think Well resources. Really, really useful. All right. Hopefully you've been able to write down what the next things are that you need to write. So writing is a social practice. It's something where you have a dialogue between yourself as the writer and the reader, which means we need feedback. We need readers to check the readability and to give us feedback on what's good, what's working, and what needs to be improved. So sometimes those messy drafts or the drafts that still need a fair bit of polishing up, maybe ask someone that's not in academia. They'll tell you where you haven't explained enough because they won't be potentially they won't know as much about your research topic as say your supervisors might. So therefore you need to be very clear and explicit. Also remember, when you're seeking feedback, there will be things that won't be positive, but hopefully if you're an active participant in the feedback process and you're explicit to the person who's giving you the feedback about what you specifically want to know, you'll get really constructive feedback that will be useful for you. And, when the document comes back, the chance to improve it is really good and it'll be worth it in the end because your document will be at the quality that you want it to be at. So try not to be worried about that feedback process. Try to think of it as something really valuable and part of that entire process of writing. So we touched on this before, improving your feedback literacy, really going to help with your confidence, with the readability of your document and your feelings and having more positive feelings about writing and feedback. So try not to send, unless you have to send a chapter, of course, then your supervisor would be expecting that. But if you want some advice on how something's looking and in those initial drafts, just send maybe 10 pages, one section, because the things that they're going to give you feedback on in that section are probably things that you'll have to improve in your other sections as well anyway. So, it's better for the person who's giving the feedback if they don't have an unexpected 50-page document come to them. So as I said before, ask specific questions as part of the feedback process. Don't just send the document, put some track changes in or in your email when you're saying, hey, can you check these specific things that I'm not sure about? And also, obviously, turnaround times are important. If, you need to both be on the same page as to how long the process is going to take. As we said before, when you receive the feedback, breathe. Don't respond straight away. Think about what's been trying to be said and how it's being constructive, and try to focus on the positive points at first rather than just saying, oh, it's all negative. The better you'll get at this feedback literacy, the more feedback you seek and the more that you receive. So, be brave. It's okay. No one's expecting drafts to be perfect. That is the entire point of asking for feedback. And expand who you get feedback from. Don't just rely on your supervisors. Find somebody who you trust, who's your peer maybe, or someone in your family or friends, and just give them little bits. Don't send them the 50 pages. Just give them a couple of pages just so that you can get some constructive feedback and then improve. So we do have HDR writing peer feedback sessions as part of our writing program. Please come along with those messy drafts. No one's expecting them to be perfect. We have a couple, 3 every month or so. You can see that the next one is, oh, it's tomorrow. Yes, it is. So you can register for that. And then another one next week, the week after. So please come along. The feedback is really positive, and your peers will be supportive and helpful, and you get a chance to have critical discussion about the feedback that you're given. And don't forget that when you provide feedback on other people's writing, it helps improve your judgment of the quality of the work, of that work that you're reading, but also your own work as well. So the last big tip that I have for you is give yourself a break. If you are tired, if you are stuck, if nothing is working, have a break, whether that's 10 minutes, whether that's a day, depends on where you're at. But, just be nice to yourself. Now, maybe you're getting a bit stuck. Hop up from the desk or wherever you are and go and do those procrastinating tasks that we talked about, but not all of them, not the ones that take your mental thought away from your writing, but something that you don't need to think about. So that's what I mean by a menial task. Go and mop the floor. If you're at home, go and wash up the dishes, but time it. And during that time, maybe you'll be thinking and it'll help the light bulbs come on. And, I keep talking about your writing schedule. If you're exhausted, take the day off, recharge. Don't force it if it's going to make you feel unwell and more stressed. Sometimes taking a break is a good thing. So we did talk about procrastination, and sometimes it's not procrastination, it's actually incubation, which is what I was just talking about regarding taking a quick break and doing a menial task. So Graham Wallace, he died in 1932, right? He's not alive anymore, but another seminal author who talked, and his field was about the creative process. So and what he was saying was that there's 4 stages: the preparation. So for you, that's probably the reading and the thinking, the incubation, more thinking, illumination, and then verification. So illumination, the light bulb goes on, you write your draft, and then you get some feedback. So that's the theory behind the idea of taking a break. You're incubating the writing process. So you've been writing, everything's going well, but you've come to a bit of a stop. You're not sure where to go next. So if you go and do that menial task, then your subconscious can keep processing, you can clarify your thoughts, and then you can come back. So when do you think your best incubating could happen? For me, weirdly, the shower. There's nothing else to think about. I have 100 ideas in the shower. I usually get out of the shower at night and go and write a page full of notes based on all of the thoughts that I had. When I was studying, I actually had a notepad in the bathroom. So as soon as I got out, I could write all my notes. So what about you? It could be going for a walk, taking the dog out. It could be the washing up. Anyone got any ideas? Yes, also in the shower. Yeah, see, there's nothing else to think about or do, is it? That's good. Walking, yep. Good one. So remember that the idea of the incubation, it has to be a menial task. So being on social media, watching YouTube, probably not menial enough. Could it be something to do with maybe you've got to go in and check your reference list is correctly structured? Could that be menial? Maybe. Exercising, perfect, fabulous. That's a good one. Yep. So yes, we all procrastinate, but see if you can flip your procrastination into incubation. All right, reflecting is how we learn and improve. In activity 1, right at the start, you talked about your feelings about writing. I'm going to give you a minute now to jot down how you're going to address those negative feelings or those obstacles that you face. So think about the strategies we've talked about. Think of one thing that you're going to do and write that down in your notes. I'm only going to give you a minute because we are running short of time. Okay, I'm going to keep going. So even later today, reflect on the session and reflect on what you wrote in your notes. And as I keep saying, regularly reflect, and not just about, oh, I need to do these things better. What did you do that was good? What milestones have you achieved? What's your next writing thing that you're going to do? What's your next goals and how are you going to achieve those? Another thing you can do is for a week, track your time, see where it goes, see where you can be more productive. And of course, always be kind to yourself, believe in yourself, you can do this. As I said, we've got to acknowledge those negative feelings, but we also have to play the long game, all right? So if you're always stressed, it's exhausting. Be patient. Your ideas will come. That's your incubation, remember. Reward yourself. Maybe you have a positive mantra. I'll put mine in the chat, which was, I'm one person. I can do what I can do, and tomorrow is another day. So rather than feeling bad and thinking, oh, I didn't achieve everything, I think about, okay, well, what did I achieve? Tomorrow's another day. I'll be more productive. I'll make sure, I stick to my schedule a little bit better. So hopefully you've got some kind of mantra that keeps you motivated and encouraged and on track. So you're going to make a writing plan right now. Another cartoon. You can't just turn creativity like a faucet, a tap. You have to be in the right mood. What mood? Last minute panic. Deadlines do make us get our writing done, don't they? But that panic is not ideal. So your writing plan needs to work for you. Like we said, try the sprinting, try the free writing, schedule regular short writing sessions. If you're waiting to have an entire day where you have nothing else that you have to do, you'll be waiting for a long time. But really also think about where are you most likely to not be interrupted? Where can you, really think and not be tempted to do things other than write. And everyone's got their own specific schedule. Now, do you guys all have this weekly calendar that I emailed to you? That would have come yesterday. I'm just going to pop it in the chat in case you don't. There it is. Okay, I've just popped it into the chat. So go in there now and schedule some writing. There's an example. So things like school pickup, things like work, exercising, whatever it might be for you, family time. Yeah, it's just the documents come into the chat. It did say it uploaded. successfully, the document. Otherwise, there'll be an email from UniHub that would have come through yesterday with it as well. Hopefully you've got that in the chat. It looks just like this. So make a plan. Where are you going to write? When are you going to write? And what are you going to write? Even just make it for today or tomorrow. Sometimes figuring out every few days rather than a whole week can make you feel more in control, or maybe it's less in control. Maybe you want to schedule for a month, up to you. All right. Now, while you're doing that, I am going to keep going. We're actually nearly done, and I just want to give us time for the Q&A. So your where, your when, and your what. You might even want to put in how many words you think you can write. You're going to do your free writing, remove all the distractions, and do a combination of big goals and then your smaller goals. The next thing. Build and foster those academic relationships with your peers, your supervisors, as we said. You want your friends and your family members on board. I know sometimes when they say, oh, when are you going to finish? How's it going? That can be stressful. So ask them instead to say, hey, how can I help? Always look after your mental health. Ask for help if you need it. And if you're really stuck, read, not in your scheduled writing time, but in your reading time. Annotate, evaluate the source. Just do some dot points, maybe record yourself talking, maybe try pen and paper, just do some rambling, keep a diary about your feelings and your writing habits. So all of these things, the idea here is to get you into those good, effective writing habits. And I promise once you get into it and you spend a week of writing every day, it'll be much, much easier. And you'll learn to know the things to notice when you're procrastinating, to notice when you're, when you're trying to be perfect, and all of the things that you've already highlighted as potential obstacles for you. Books are good. These are all in the QUT library. Don't forget you'll have access to these slides as well. Productivity apps. There's a few that I know of. They can be helpful or not. Sometimes we don't, this can take our time away. It can be a bit of a time waster. So you can finish that research degree, stay positive, be confident, stay passionate. Remember about why you chose this research topic, because it's important to you. Trust yourself. That hard work will pay off, and make your goals achievable. Don't say, oh, I'm going to write for 2 hours every day. If you know with your busy schedule that that's not possible, start small and then increase. Okay, so that's where we're just finishing off. Maybe you're still doing your plan. Sorry, we had to rush through that. We were on time and then we slowed up. There's a survey link. It's anonymous. Let us know what you thought. It'll only take you a couple of minutes, or you can use that QR code there as well. So I'd love your feedback. It helps us to improve our sessions. Takeaways: what stops you from writing? Do those reflections. Try not to have the negative thoughts. Counter them with positive ones. You already know that you've been a successful writer in the past. Make your writing schedule achievable and have supportive people around you. Now, coming up is I have a series of writing circles related to thesis writing. First one is in a couple of weeks, writing your introduction. All of the semester 1 recordings are up on Blackboard. So come along to as many of those writing circles as suit you. If you're writing a research proposal, we have a workshop and a writing circle coming up. I'll just pop the link for all the writing sessions are there on HiQ. Essential skills for HDRs next Monday, a writer's lounge next Tuesday, and a HDR careers Q&A next Wednesday. That's all on that HiQ. And make sure you read your HDR Matters. Remember that comes out every week. Use HiQ and Blackboard. Okay, we've got a couple minutes, sorry, for questions. Sorry that we got so close to the time there. You can pop a question in the chat. You can turn on your microphone if you have a question. If you need to go, I totally understand. Thank you for coming. Make sure you put your student ID in the chat so we can record your attendance. Anyone got a question? Or a suggestion about how you think you're going to bust your writer's block? I know a few of you are going, so thank you for coming along. All right, so most people are heading off. A few people have said they're going to revise their writing plan and reflect. Yes, reflecting, and not in a berating way, right? Reflect and be kind to yourself. You're one person. You can only do what you can do. Doesn't look like we have any questions. So since it's just about 12 o'clock, I think we might wrap up. As I said, remember you can email me if you think of something. Please fill out the survey if you have time. And also, I will send you an email. I think it'll be tomorrow with the link to the slides and the recording. All right. Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone, for coming along. I really appreciate you making it a wonderful session and engaging. And good luck with your achievable writing plan. And as I said, don't forget, it's the when are you going to write, where are you going to write, and what are you going to write? That will set you up nicely. All right. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you all soon.